Hello and welcome to Talking Data as we continue our journey along with CVoter on behalf of Boom Live, and we continue also asking and trying to understand what the Union Budget 2015 means. Now it's 10 days past, the budget is over. The budget is supposed to do many things. One is it's supposed to give an account of the spending and the income of the government of India, but more importantly it sets some directions in terms of policy, in terms of your taxes, in terms of essentially our lives and what we spend and what we earn. So that's over now. Let's understand how people have reacted, which in some ways and more importantly also conveys what the current national mood is when it comes to the government itself, and what the citizenry thinks of the government and what it has been doing so far and what it intends to do, of which the budget that we spoke about just now is an important and critical part. So joining me now, Yashwant Deshmukh from CVoter, and as we take you through this interesting survey that was done by CVoter between the 28th of February, that's the day the Union Budget was announced, to the 2nd of March, over 3,000 randomly selected respondents from across the country, and also a fairly sort of a wide kind of demographic profile in conjunction with that. So we asked a series of questions, but before we get down to the specific questions, and we're going to cover about 7 or 8 of them, and we're also going to show it to you. Yashwant, what's the takeaway, right? So now it's 10th of March, many days have passed. What's the sense of the nation's mood, or what is the nation's mood like when it comes to what the government has delivered so far and what it is expected to deliver?
Well, we have been conducting this series of what we can say that is the expectation from the poll is concerned, and right on the budget day we also did the budget day exit poll on what would be the first reaction of the people around the country, and then we followed it up with this post-budget poll to understand whether the first reaction has consolidated, because people need a day or two through the national media and vernacular media to understand what exactly is in the budget for them. So going across from the pre-budget to the budget day and the post-budget, what it looks like that there is, at least among the middle classes, there is a sense of disappointment, I would say. There is nothing much as such for the middle class in this budget, as they said. The inflation, as we said, some of them feel that it has gone down, but others feel that still not up to the mark. They are not very satisfied, but there is a extremely high level of anticipation and extremely high level of optimism, I would say, is still there. So all in all, it is from average to a little bit better than average kind of budget, as we say. On the 10-pointer scale, as we talked about it, the general public had given about 6, and the experts, as we call them, or the industry, had given them somewhere between 8 to 9. So right, there is certainly a big gap between what the experts and the industry thinks on this budget and right, what the Aam Aadmi thinks on the street. This doesn't look like quite a big pro-Aam Aadmi budget as such right now.
Right, and let's look at the first one, right? So and this is about the current state of affairs as well as the anticipation of what things could be. Question was, do you feel that prices will come down after this budget? Now, the 46%, I mean, more close to half, as you can see in that chart, felt that basically there would not be any change in prices. Not at all is the answer. There is some variations between the lower income group and the higher income group. Actually more in the higher income group felt that prices would not fall, whereas a slightly smaller number in the low income group. But if you were to average that out, 46% are saying that they do not think that prices will come down, 30% saying that it could come down a little bit, only 16% on an average or 17% saying that prices could come down. So the general belief is that life is going to remain tough or going to get tougher as time passes. The second question, and let's go quickly to that, and then I'm going to come to Yashwant. Do you expect that in the next 1 year the overall quality of your own life will improve, remain the same, deteriorate? Right, so there you are. 53% however feel that quality of life will improve, though prices will also go up or prices will not come down. Quality of life will improve. and only 20% said or 21% said on an average that it would deteriorate. So, Yashwant, how do we reconcile these two sort of slightly different emotions?
Well, if you look across the different income groups, one trend is very interesting in the second, especially the second question. If you look across the data very carefully, that those who are optimistic about this budget is actually across the spectrum. More than 50% of the all the three income categories are saying that the quality of life will get better, even though almost half of the India says that the prices are not really going to come down and inflation is going to go up. I mean, basically, they are not expecting it, but somehow overall the optimism index of optimism is quite high. At the same time, this is also alarming to see almost every fourth low income group Indian saying that the life is going to deteriorate if not remain the same. Among the middle classes, the high optimism is that it will get better or it will at least remain what it is right now. And of course, in the high income group, the least number of people say that it will deteriorate further. But the concern for Modi government should be the every fourth low income group respondent saying that they fear that life will deteriorate, and also is the concern about the high hopes, because high anticipation and high expectations are a double-edged sword. I mean, if the same number doesn't really feel that in the next 1 year something is happening on the ground, and they don't feel this happening by the time next year, this optimism might even might even convert into cynicism.
So, the other question we asked, Yashwant, as you know, is will this budget push up your monthly expenses or will it leave more money in your hands, right? So, that's question number 4. Now, interestingly enough, 62%, now this goes back to the first question we asked as well, which said that do you feel that prices will come down? 62% said that it will push up my monthly expenses. 21% said that it will allow me to save more. So, basically everything that the government has architected in this budget in terms of expenditure, savings, potential savings, eventually has led people to conclude that it will push up monthly expenses. Obviously, that's also linked to rising inflation. So, Yashwant, are you there?
Yes, I am very much here, and the interesting figure is the maximum number of middle classes, which is saying that expenditure is gonna go up. But what is surprising here is that look at the low income group data, and that is where you kind of left with smiling that almost a quarter of that. I mean, in fact, among the those who are saying that I will have something more to save, it is the maximum in that particular group which is saying that they will be having something more to save. Probably, I would say because of the schemes of the Jan Dhan Yojana, that they feel that the cash will be directly coming to their account. Probably because of the saving schemes, the things that have been increased, or even among the middle classes, every fifth middle class might be looking out for that 50,000 increase in the saving and the provident fund, basically the pension funds, and also into the category of the health insurance might be. But this is interesting that those who are saying that their monthly expenditure is gonna go up by this budget is maximum in the middle class, and those who are saying that they would be probably left with a little bit more saving than previous years, then they are coming maximum from the low income group. So it seems that the bottom of the pyramid schemes, which could be the Jan Dhan Yojana, which could be other things, the direct cash transfer or other things, could be percolating now in terms of perception, at least as far as the low income group common man is concerned. But as far as the middle class is concerned, I believe this budget is raising expectation as well as concerns, both, I would say.
Right. So, if we were to now, I mean, we are going to get to the next round of questions, which is really asking you or the respondents about how you felt that the team of Arun Jaitley, the Finance Minister, and the Prime Minister Narendra Modi actually delivered this budget and how they architected it, so to speak. But before that, Yashwant, if we were to sum up now from what we've seen, and we've really already gone through the key responding points as far as the Aam Janata is concerned. So the takeaway seems to be that the middle class is still concerned about what the future is like. The upper middle class or the tending to rich also obviously are somewhat concerned. The lower middle class and the relatively disadvantaged seem to be somewhat placated by this budget in terms of perhaps their cost of living slightly going down, or at least their sense of optimism being higher. Am I correct?
That's right. I mean, what I feel like that the lower middle class, which is in generally not really into that kind of income tax bracket as such, so 250,000 a year is something which doesn't really bother them, the bottom of the schemes which are aimed at the bottom of the pyramid, I think they have taken it well. The concerns about inflation remain there. They are not very optimistic about the inflation getting controlled, but they are optimistic about more cash in their hand, more saving in their hand, and a better life in the next over the next 12 months or over the next year. But middle class, it seems, though it is optimistic at large, but there are extreme good amount of doubt as far as the inflation is concerned. They fear that this budget is going to push their monthly expenditure up, and a big disappointment, as we have seen in the last two surveys, as well as far as the income tax slabs are concerned. They definitely feel the income tax slabs are nothing being done in that is a big disappointment. They would have been looking for at least 3.5 lakh, if not 4 lakh kind of range, but 3.5 as an optimum range, what they feel that is really critical to run a middle class family, and they feel that government should keep that much of as a tax-free intent.
So Yashwant, the next question we asked. So let's look at some of the responses to the team. How is the team of Narendra Modi and Arun Jaitley delivered on the budget front so far? So here we are. It's interesting. So 35% said it was just as expected. Depending on which way you want to view that. Again, within that there are some variations. The middle income is at 41%, lower income 35%, higher income group is 25%. So it's obviously not as expected. The higher income group also says is at 35% for worse than expected, as you can see, and 37% is middle income group for worse than expected. So actually very few people except the higher income group feel that this team has delivered the budget better than expected. So the general sense is that they've not lived up to expectations. Am I correct, Yashwant?
You are right. In fact, just as expected in the Indian context, as I would say. I mean, if we exactly use the Hindi term, which in Hindi lingo is said, "Jas ka tas hai." I mean, just the way it is, "Jaisa socha tha." It's like it's actually taken it a negative sentiment. I would say the middle thing. Plenty of people, when we release this data, say that just as expected is good, and it should be taken along with the more than expected. No, as an analyst, as a person who studies the Indian demographics and their reactions for 20 years, I can tell you that just as expected is generally not in a positive frame. It is basically courteous people largely saying that it's disappointing. So instead of saying it's disappointing, they tend to say just as expected.
Right. Okay. So let's. I mean, there are many specific questions, but which you will see on www.boomlive.in. But one of them was, rating the decision to put aside another 1,000 crore rupees for the Nirbhaya program. This, of course, follows the. The Nirbhaya is, of course, the December 2012 rape case. And all the sort of attention and the funding being put aside to improve the focus and attention on women's issues. So this obviously plays well, right? I mean, this is something that in many ways is seen to have affected Delhi's local elections as well. So 70% of the higher income group, 54% of the middle income group, 61% of the lower income group say that this additional fund allocation was a good decision, and 60% average okay decision, 22%, which is, I guess, okay. Only 4% felt that it was a bad decision. So thematically, this obviously seems to be an issue which works well. So people are not looking as much at the funding and what he'll do, but the fact that something is being done about it, and putting aside money is a good start. Am I right, Vishwant?
Yes, I mean, and if you look at to the 6 or 7 schemes or decisions that the government had taken, and we when we asked them, most of the decision have gone into a majority saying that it has been a good decision, barring one decision. If I wonder if you can pull out that graphic and run it. I mean, if you can quickly go through all other schemes and see that broadly the positivity of the decision is continuing, barring one decision. And that one decision, I would leave it on you to tell it first, going through it. But yes, that one decision leaves the bad taste in the middle class mouth.
Okay, I'm trying to find that. Yashwant. Okay.
That's on the service tax.
Yeah, that's on the service tax. Yes. Okay. We shall come to that in a moment. We also asked about the corporate tax, and yeah, sorry, the next one was service tax. In service tax, we said rate the decision to increase service tax from 12.36 to 14%, and also remember there's another Swachh Bharat cess which could apply, details which are awaited. 29% said it was a good decision. 16% said,
you see,
yeah,
it's so typical, because the groups which are not really much going to be affected much are saying it's okay or it's fine. Only 30% of that low income group saying that it's a bad decision. But look at the middle class, 48%, 57% of the high income group, basically those who are going to be directly affected by that. And I would largely look into the middle class data, because that is something which should be worrying. The high income group is not big part of the demographic, because middle class is almost getting around 30% of India, which is quite substantial to being touching a 1/3 of the mark, which is quite substantial number. So that mark, that part is looking at this service tax increase as a poor decision. They feel that almost everything that they do is going to be taxed now, and I mean, it was already being taxed, but increasing that is going to increase their expenditure.
Right.
So even those who are actually going for recreation, I mean, for some kind of even watching a movie or any other thing, everywhere they feel like that according to service tax, their life will be taxed more, while there is no much increase as far as the tax-free or the tax slabs are concerned, income tax slabs are concerned. So certainly this decision has not gone done well. If the government would have actually given further increase as far as the tax slabs are concerned, then I would say that this decision might have been taken with a pinch of salt, but not right now. Right now,
right now, yeah. And Yashwant, service tax does hit us all directly. I mean, not surprisingly that the higher income group has reacted more negatively, 56.7%, though the average of course is high at 40%, and the middle income is at 48 and lower income at 30.2%. But and they're all saying of course that hiking the service tax is a poor decision, and the not so good news is that there could be further hikes at a later point, as there is an attempt to harmonize all taxes with the goods and service tax, or GST, but that bad news will leave for another day as and when it comes. Let's look at the next one. We also asked, please rate the decision by the finance minister to increase taxes on cigarettes and pan masala. So depending on where you are, either you are, on the smoking or consuming spectrum, good decision, say 58% on an average, high income group 76, middle income 59, and low income group 52%.
Across the spectrum, it's actually it's said as a good decision.
Yes.
If you look at it this way, across the spectrum, people have said it's a good decision. Though 10% of about low income group is saying it's a bad decision, and which is kind of understandable, because if you look around, the most of the low income groups, probably tobacco and other things are kind of the only large scale substance abuse, as you may call, as far as the recreation is concerned, that they do use it on a day-to-day basis. So that way they have taken it. But on the issue of this, actually majority of India across the social spectrum, across the income group spectrum, feels that that the tobacco products, they are a big challenge as far as the health issues are concerned, and the healthy India issue of healthy India is concerned, and they are largely happy by increasing the tax on this one.
Right, and of course the question some of us would ask is why are BDs not being taxed? And considering that tobacco is tobacco, whether it's served in a nice shiny packet or in something more.
The very fact that it's aimed at the bottom of the pyramid. And why low income group also a big number of them are saying that it's okay, probably because the BDs have been left out, so they don't really feel the pain. So that's the bottom of the pyramid. So this is why in totality, when you look at the things, you will figure out that the disappointment is the maximum among the middle classes from the various things of this budget rather than the low income group.
Right. So Yashwant, let's wrap up and let's try and sort of spin it forward, right? So we have a survey here which tells us about what the mood of the nation is, at least on key issues. I think the key issues being whether or not there's a sense prices will go down or not, which also translates into whether or not they will have spending power. More importantly, what do they feel about the future, right? So there is obviously still concern on whether prices would go up, their cost of living would increase and so on. On the other hand, there seems to be a general sense of comfort with the team that's delivering whatever it's delivering on the economic front, and including this budget this time. So therefore you've seen reactions to some of the specific things. So if we were to look forward, what should the government be concerned about at this point, so as to ensure that these ratings improve in their favor, and to ensure that they plug some of the holes that perhaps this shows?
Well, I believe that the bottom of the pyramid schemes are more likely to do good for this government, provided they are implemented well. We have seen the success of Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana as far as the opening of the accounts is concerned. Now the direct monetary transactions to those accounts linked with Aadhaar cards and other ways, as and when that happens, then we also see that the lower income group is also expecting more money in their hand to save or like that. So they are happy with the schemes or the things that are announced. They are now looking out for the implementation of that. So government has to very keenly follow for the implementation of the things which they are aiming at the bottom of the pyramid. But as far as the middle class is concerned, I think government should be concerned that the middle class would be okay with the indirect taxes or increasing of the service taxes and other things, if they have money in their hands, more money in their hands to spend. So right now, if they are not looking at big time increase in their income, they are looking at some relief as far as the taxation slabs are concerned, and government should be thinking on that. Right. If the middle class, which is basically the biggest consumer class in the world right now, Indian middle class, if they are left with more money, they would certainly like to spend that money. If that money is spent, that certainly rotates within the economy, and it has an internal Indian economy is so different from China, which I feel, I mean, I'm not an economist, but when I talk to the big economists around the globe, they say that we are more hopeful for the Indian economy because Indian middle class is organic in nature. They have their own demands. So the Indian economy can survive on the internal demand rather than cosmetic demand, which is generated by government generated sectors. So I believe that it would be good if the government can leave more money in the hand of the middle classes, which they can spend and invest it back in the economy, even if it means investing more in terms of different schemes within the economy.
Right. Yashwant, thank you so much for that. I think that sort of wraps the budget run, which we obviously started before the union budget, and I've now sort of tried to understand what really you as citizens of this country are thinking when it comes to your daily lives, and what really you want from this government. So clearly there are two answers. One is the tangible, which is to do with more money in your hands, and there's the intangible, a sense of optimism and hope which you would like, so as to plan your lives better and expect a brighter future. Thank you so much for that, Yashwant. We're going to be back on Talking Data very soon with a new subject and a new theme. Stay tuned.